This is going to be part 2 of our study in Ecclesiastes. That I've titled this series Words of the Teacher. That, of course, being Qualicum, the unnamed teacher, instructor of us that we have in the book of Ecclesiastes. And as a giant, like one big work of wisdom, poetry, and literature, it defies being broken up into parts quite a bit. But we sort of have a beginning, an end. There's an epilogue and an introduction. But there's also kind of near the end, I think a really good section that summarizes and wraps up most of the kind of main thrust and idea that the teacher's trying to get across to us. That if we would grasp that, then going back and reading through the rest of the book will be a little bit easier. I mean, Ecclesiastes can be a bit of a downer book if you're reading it sort of chapter at a time from beginning to end. Like it's, everything is like, well, vanity, vanity, everything's useless and worthless and chasing after wind and all this kind of thing. So if you read it in bits and pieces, it can be a bit tough. And actually, when my parents were over at some time in the last 7 days, and my mom and I were talking, and I said, I think what we should do is go and let's get the gist of it. Let's get the sort of the last bit, the point, and then once we have that, then maybe we can go through to the beginning and the end, but with some more hope, because we've read the back of the book. And so we agreed that would probably be a good approach. And so that's the approach I'm going to try and take. And this will help us we're going to get the key right now. Normally you don't do this. Normally you bring in the you want to bring everyone to the aha moment at the end, which is exactly what the book is doing. It just doesn't lend itself to long-term teaching necessarily, maybe, at least the way I'm going to do it. So we're going to go and get the aha moment first, and then we'll have a bunch of little aha moments as we go through and be like, I get this now in chapter 2. And chapter 5 makes more sense to me and is more approachable now that I really understand kind of what it's trying to get across. That's the theory. We'll see over the next however many weeks if this works out for us or not. All right. I let my iPad die completely. So it's getting a little bit of charge here. And I need to get back to my sermon, which hasn't quite synced yet. We're going to be reading in chapter 11. And we're going to be going from chapter 11, verse 7, down to chapter 12, verse 8, which is so conveniently exactly one column in my Bible. I tell you what, as a preacher, it is really irritating to have your thought split over 2 pages where you have to flip back and forth. Just that little bit of extra. So this is just so pleasing to me to have everything in just one line. There we go. Although in the spirit of Ecclesiastes, I will have to complain about something, and that is it doesn't have it in the nice meter form that I really like. But this is what happens. So we're gonna spend some time here in this place here, the short sort of final call of the teacher towards us, the reader, in this section. And really, this is a call towards stewardship, or what I would call a call towards co-creation with God. This passage is a long poem that serves to kind of reiterate and wrap up the message of the teacher. And this portion has themes of death and joy, which are the same themes that go throughout the rest of the book of Ecclesiastes. And it highlights those again here for us. So if I'm going to read from verse 7 to verse 10 now in Ecclesiastes 11. Light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. Even those who live many years should rejoice in them all. Yet let them remember that the days of darkness will be many. All that comes is vanity. Rejoice, young man, while you are young, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Follow the inclination of your heart and the desire of your eyes, but know that for these things God will bring you into judgment. Banish anxiety from your mind and put away pain from your body, for youth and the dawn of life are vanity. What an interesting poem, right? It's such, yeah, there's a lot going on here. In verse 7, we start with this contrast of light and darkness. Light and darkness is a very common metaphor in the Bible. And really, let there be light was the first utterance of God that we have recorded in Scripture. And so, thus, wisdom and the idea of wisdom, the metaphor of wisdom, even the actual wisdom that is the sort of emanation from God, that is wisdom, is linked with light. And folly then is linked with darkness. And this is a pretty obvious theme. It really makes good sense. We can grasp that because light shines and opens up for us the things that were once hidden or unseen to us. Exactly. So this is the reason why when you, in a comic book, want to describe someone having an aha moment or to show it, what do? You put a light bulb above their hat, right? You don't put a little darkness there. You put darkness when there's confusion. Have you ever seen a little thought bubble and it just has like a bunch of like scribbles in it? It's because at that moment they're confused. They don't know what's going on. And then they have the light bulb moment. So we have this metaphor of light, which is again this idea of this metaphor for wisdom. And so wisdom is sweet. Light is sweet. Wisdom itself is sweet. Then the teacher connects this under the sun. If you remember last week in our introduction, under the sun, all things under the sun are vanity. They are habel, vanity, futile, worthless, meaningless, etc. But this is different because it doesn't say under the sun. He says it's pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. When do the eyes see the sun? When you can see. When the sun is out. When you can see. When you're alive. When you're born. Sometimes later in life, you don't see the sun. Sometimes you do. But it's pleasant to see the sun. Everything under the sun, again, that's a metaphor for everything around us. Everything we see, everything that's been made. Living life under the sun. But it's pleasant for the eyes to see the sun here. Under the sun is vanity, but it's pleasant to see the sun. So there's something that the teacher is trying to point us towards. Right? We have this pleasantness. To be created then, or to be called from nothingness into substance, though for a short time, is pleasant. It's better that to be than to not be. And the next line, he calls the young human and says, enjoy your life. Rejoice, young man. I'm going to read to you here from a commentary written by Brother Painter on the wisdom and the Psalms and the wisdom literature, and this is on the Ecclesiastes. But I'm going to read this, and you'll understand why he is a doctor of literature. Youth is like light. It is sweet but fleeting. pleasing but outflanked by non-existence on the one side and by the grave on the other. In another sense, youth is dreamlike. It is a kind of illusion, a temporary miracle God performs on mere dust, a sinking Atlantis in the ocean of eternity. Qoheleth actually calls youth habel, or meaningless, or a mere breath. But the young man hardly knows any of this. He thinks his lithe limbs, his strong adaptive back, his young ears, his keen eyes, his heavy heavenly sleeps, and his flexible future are forever. Little does he understand that in a universe of entropy, life is always an uphill battle, and he is living on the enormous but dying momentum that life had given him with its initial burst. Somewhere around 40, it will first dawn upon him that he is running out of momentum and slowing down. In due time, limb by limb, muscle by muscle, cell by cell, his body will begin to resemble again the lifeless dust from which he arose. These, Qoheleth says, are the evil days, which he vividly captures with a series of metaphors for old age, which are in chapter 12, verses 1 to 8. You like that? That's why he says, rejoice, young man. Rejoice. Rejoice in what is a mere breath and a fleeting time. In here, we have people of all ages. We are all on that short spectrum between nothingness and the grave, being called into existence with that initial burst or breath of God into us. Yeah. To what's next? Yeah. 100%. And we're invincible. But oh, we need that. Because without that naivete and that invincibility, what would we do? We need recklessness. We need fearlessness to move the society forward and to do something, to learn. You have to be unafraid of failure to make something and to do something. And we always lose that, basically, around 40. And we become more conservative, and we become more careful, and we become more... Right now, there's this little thing on social media making fun of, people in that sort of 40-year age bracket. And it'll be things like a guy will get out of a truck, and he'll jump out of the truck, and then in the next frame, he's there, but he's just a ghost. And then he looks over and realizes, oh, he died getting out of the truck. I get it now, right? Or he goes up a step and he trips over and he dies, but he doesn't quite realize it yet. Because, as soon as you hit 40, and of course it goes on being a 40-year-old, I feel like I can say what my experience has been like. You get those, you used to not groan when you sat down, but now there's this involuntary expulsion of breath every time and then you hold on to it when you get up, right? It's like, and then you're good, right? It's a funny thing. I mean, this whole poem played out for me perfectly today while I'm skating on the ice and doing my best, and I feel like I'm living my best hockey life out there. And I get around one guy, and he's 40. You get around the other guy, he's like 50. And I had deked out this one younger guy. And then as soon as I get my head up, there's a 13-year-old boy who just takes the puck away and skates away with it. Again. But you need that. You have to have that inner mindset of, I don't know what the future holds, and I don't know if this is going to hurt me, but I'm going to try. Yeah. Opposed to just going. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. Very much so. Yeah. 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 One day, Anthony will think twice. He might be 50 when that happens and think, this now the risk outweighs the reward. And all young men will go through this to various extents. All people will. I don't mean to say young men, but that's my personal experience. You'll go through this time of like, I can barely see 3 minutes ahead of me right now. This seems good. Keep going. Yeah. Okay. Rejoice, young man. But in verse 9, let's look at this because this verse 9 has actually given people a lot of issues in terms of interpretation, a lot of issues over the years. Rejoice, young man, while you are young, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Follow the inclination of your heart and the desires of your eyes, but know that for all these things God will bring you into judgment. This language, of course, has given interpreters a lot of issues over the years because it seems almost like this is a blank check. Like, just go for it and do what you want to do. If you read this sentence or this verse on its own. And so is the teacher herself telling the young man just to do what's right in his own eyes? Some Greek translators felt that way and therefore inserted words here to try and clarify. So they would insert a word. They added the Greek equivalent of the word blameless in front of heart and the word not before eyes, and sort of rendered it, follow the inclination of your blameless heart and not the desires of your eyes. This, however, of course, is an interpreter reading back into the text because these words do not appear in the original Hebrew. But they added it as a sort of a way of clarification, as it were. But let's step back. Again, reading a verse on its own is dangerous. It's not something we should do. We need to do so in context, as always. Context, context, context. And the theme of this poem is joy. Joy and, finally, death. So these two themes are two very prominent themes throughout the entirety of Ecclesiastes. It's what the whole book is about, joy and death. Great topics, right? Just really grips you. And as such, because the themes of this poem match the themes of the overall book, we need to look at the content of the poem in the context of the whole book and the way it treats these things. Because this is not the first time that the teacher calls one to enjoyment and in what to do. So I'm going to read two of those other portions right now, but there are like 5 or 6 of them. In Ecclesiastes 2 from 24 to 25, it says, "There is nothing better for mortals than to eat and drink and find enjoyment in their toil or work. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment?" So if he says here, no one can have enjoyment apart from God, then the following of your heart and of your eyes is in the context of that understanding that you do so as a gift from God and not in and of yourself. Ecclesiastes 8:15, "So I commended enjoyment. So I commended enjoyment. For there is nothing better for people under the sun than to eat and drink and enjoy themselves. For this will go with them in their toil through the days of life that God gives them under the sun." This is then repeated in chapter 3, 2 places, in chapter 5, and then again in chapter 9, the same call towards enjoyment, but saying and connecting it to a gift from God, and that this is from God. So this is giving us a really good clue as to the what I believe is the great overarching um, philosophy or view or worldview that comes from the book of Ecclesiastes. Each time we get one of these gifts, God is indicated. And then we have enjoy themselves and toil. What is toil? It's work, it's labor. Yeah. It's striving, it's doing a thing, right? It's doing a thing. So the actions of verse 9 are connected to an understanding that all things are a gift of God and that we steward them at his pleasure. This makes good sense because when we go to the beginning of the book, and I mean the beginning of the Bible, and read in Genesis, we read in verse 27, so God created humans. God created humans in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth, subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and every living thing that moves on the earth. See, I have given to you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And so to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food. And it was so. And God saw everything that he made, and indeed it was very good. And there was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. So we can see the link between the words of the teacher and the creation story. The story of what? Human beings being called in from nothingness, made from the dust of the earth, under the sun, and brought into toil. This is the garden. Keep it, dress it, go name all the animals. All of this stuff is fruit, but you have to go and pick it. There's no delivery. There's no HelloFresh. You're living in HelloFresh. Get out there and get to it. There was work from the beginning. In paradise, there was vocation, there was toil, there was purpose, there was calling. We had a thing to do. And guess what? What if I told you that never changed? It never changed. Yes, there was a fall. But what happened because of the fall? It was just made harder. That's it. He didn't say, okay, going forward, now your calling is different. You have to go and do these other things and blah, blah, blah. No, calling's still the same. Be fruitful, multiply, toil, pick. But instead of the earth yielding up its seed to you, you're going to have to work it because it's going to be covered in thorns and thistles, and that ground's not going to really want to give something up. How many times in your life have you been able to just sort of go out and plant a garden without ever having to prepare the soil whatsoever? Doesn't work. Nope. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It is for sure. Yeah. 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 100%. Right. And all this happened on the sixth day, and the next day, God took a PTO. Right. Took some time off. right? It's just like, it's funny, but as Christians, maybe we grow up in this, but if you live and grow up in pagan religions, they don't have an idea of rest baked in. Like, especially all of the ones that were in and around this time period or from the ancient Near East, they're just not there. The Babylonians worked 7 days a week. The Egyptians worked 7 days a week. Like, it was bad. And God in our Bible, he punishes Babylon for the way that they've overworked the ground. Yeah. The whole world needs Ecclesiastes, but we're scared of it. We're scared of it. The main reason is because it takes the purpose out of our hands. We don't like that. We don't like so much as a species, as a human being, as humanity. We don't like a lot of what is in the book of Ecclesiastes. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And through God's hands, but at the same time, I think there's a little nuance in here that we're going to get to in a bit. So we can see the link between creation and the words of the teacher in this poem: be fruitful, subdue the earth, multiply dominion. God gives mankind food, and what is better than to enjoy what he's given us? This is co-creation. This is partnering with God in stewarding his creation. This is one of the primary ways that I interpret and read scripture, as a calling for us to be partners with God in the garden. What was that? What did that mean? What does that mean today? And that's how I'm interpreting this here. So then mankind sinned, and really when he sinned, it just made it more difficult in chapter 2, but it still was the same call. We still have work given to humanity. And so I put it to you that, and then I have a, thank you for doing that. That's fantastic. I like to highlight this. I did make handouts. They're all on the printer at home. So, but I did make this so you can see what they were. The path with joy is a path of stewardship. And I want you to see the word with. I did not use the word of or to. It's with. With joy. We have paths we can choose. The path with joy is the one that is a path of stewardship. It is a path of stewarding what we have in our area of influence. And that's those great three things: time, talent, and treasure. In reality, the only thing that we really have, you know how it says faith, hope, and love? The greatest of these is love. We have time, talent, and treasure, but the greatest of these is time. Because it's through time that we get talent, and it's through time that we get treasure. You trade time for money. It's the only way you acquire anything. You trade time for it. Even if you're robbing somebody, you're trading time for money. Like, I mean, there's no shortcuts here. Time is fleeting, and you cannot get more of it. And that is one of the pieces I love so much about this book, is because it focuses in on the fact that time is fleeting. It's a breath and will soon be gone. And this poem brings this perfectly through to conclusion, and I just love it. Verse 1 of chapter 12, remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come and the years draw near, when you will say, I have no pleasure in them. Verse 1 is just a continuation of the same thought that we got in from chapter 11 and from that poem there. We're not breaking it. It just happens to be the sort of chapter breaker that some guy put in the 1500s, okay? This is all one thought. So the charge here then strengthens the call towards stewardship that we have been given. The days of trouble that it's talking about, of course, are the days of growing old. It's that sort of, we call it over the hill. Those are the days of trouble that it's referring to here. It's that growing old, that tipping down towards a decline, and then the trouble that comes with that. The incline and the increasing strength and capability of youth peak. And after they peak, they slowly start declining and returning from whence they came. We were having a conversation on Sunday about how human beings sort of are so helpless and need so much care and attention when they're growing. And we often end the same way, needing constant care and attention before we pass. In Ecclesiastes 1 and 5, it says, the sun rises and the sun goes down and it hurries back from whence they came. And all things under the sun. And that sun is coming up and it's on the young man, the person just born, and then through their days. And it's pleasant to see the sun. And then that sun is going to set and it's going to go down. And when it does, it's going to go back to where it came and it's going to start again. Yeah, exactly. And also, do you remember the words of Jesus? Do work while it is yet day. While you still can. Under the sun. Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars are darkened and the clouds return with rain. In the day when the guards of the house tremble and the strong men are bent and the women who grind cease working because they are few, and those who look through the window see dimly. When the doors on the street are shut and the sound of the grinding is low. The grinding there is the grinding of flour. And you can see in so many societies, that sort of meal preparation activity was so communal. Many people, usually women, together grinding out the corn or preparing their rice or whatever it was. And they get older and they teach the younger women, but slowly, as it says, that the sound dies down because they are few. Why are they few? Well, some of them can't do it anymore. Some of them aren't alive anymore and they can't be there. And so you see this picture of these matriarchs just disappearing from that room as their time is done. The grinding of the is low and one rises up at the sound of a bird, their sleep disturbed, and all the daughters of song are brought low. When one is afraid of heights, put yourself into the mindset of being quite elderly, afraid of heights, and terrors are on the road. The almond tree blossoms, which is a metaphor because when an almond tree blossoms, it's white, like the hair of one advanced in age. The grasshopper drags itself along, and the caper bud falls. Because all must go to their eternal home. That's a metaphor for the grave. And the mourners will go about the streets. Before the silver cord is snapped and the golden bowl is broken and the pitcher is broken at the fountain, all of these prized possessions, the wheel broken at the cistern, and the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the breath returns to God who gave it. Vanity of vanity, says the teacher. All is vanity. That is gripping. That is stirring. In this poem, though, don't forget what the call is. The call in this poem is remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble. And so, what I put to you is this: the call of the book of Ecclesiastes is towards stewardship. That means it is a call to recognize that everything on this earth is God's. And it is going to go away. And everything that is on this earth is objectively and in and of itself meaningless, of no use, not eternal, will not last forever. But it's here. So enjoy it and steward it and keep it well. Don't keep yourself from it. Don't miser it away. Use it, share it, enjoy it. Bless people with your work. Bless your family with your work. Bless them with the fruits of your labor. It will not go with you, and it will not last forever. And it is not the epitome of God's creation, but it is God's creation under the sun. Do not give more to it than what it is due. Now, what do? We worship the creation instead of the Creator. We look for the many zeros in the bank account. We look for the flashy car. We worship Mother Nature or bow down to these things and carve up idols for ourselves and go and spend our time just with the nature and with creation and not with the Creator. But the calling of the teacher is remember your Creator in the days of your youth. While you're under the sun, it's pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. The dark days are coming, and it is going to be hard, and there is going to be trouble. But enjoy what you have. And it's not forever. This is not forever. We have been called into being like dust, and our bodies will return to that. But the breath, the spirit, returns to God. It's created. It's His. The body will go to its eternal home. That is the grave. But we won't. So don't worship the creation. Remember your Creator. When we have that, everything else in this world just becomes just joy. All of it. No matter how much or how little we have, how good or how poor we have, all of it becomes joy because we have time with it. We're here. We can enjoy it. We can see the sun. We can live. We can exist. We can move. We can dwell. We can have our being. And it will go. Store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. That phrase is like Jesus taking all of Ecclesiastes and giving it to us. Don't store the treasures down here. And the teacher, we're going to go through and see, the teacher's going to say, I gave myself to this, and I gave myself to that, and I really investigated this, and I found all of it is just meaningless and a breath and chasing after wind. Oh, if I could just take Ecclesiastes and just stuff it into my head and into my face and have that be my way of being all day. Don't worry. Be happy. And I don't mean just be happy, but like, that's where the joy is. The joy, the path with joy is one of stewardship, realizing I have this, and my job, my purpose, my calling is to take care of it and enjoy it. And I will do that. And let me tell you something. Somebody who takes care of and enjoys what God has given, not just to them, but what God has given, will stand out in this world. One who can enjoy what God has given does not need to keep up with the Joneses. They can look at the Joneses and say, what a blessing to have you as a neighbor. Could I borrow your lawnmower? What a blessing to have you near. We love to complain, but listen, what a blessing to have a government who goes and makes the decisions about roads and where they're going to be built and who's going to build them, so I don't have to do that. I love that. It's wonderful. Do I think they do it great all the time? No, but I also have never done it, so I have no idea. But I'm glad that there's roads. I'm glad there's no potholes in my front yard. Yeah. 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 What's real, what's lasting, what's enduring. Yeah. Yeah. So quickly. Our health can go like that. Things can happen so fast. We don't know. So what's the answer? Remember your creator. And I love how it doesn't say remember your God. Remember your father. Remember with the person who has authority over you. Remember the person who is your leader and master. It doesn't say that. I love that so much. Remember your creator. That tells me that the creator has made me, and I get to choose whether or not to remember them. What kind of a creator would do that? You know, it's so easy to be someone who gives something, anything, and then when not given thanks or respect for what you've given or what you've done, oh, you feel angry. You feel owed. You feel crossed, upset, really disrespected. And what do you want to do? Well, that's where that fantastic phrase comes from parents, right? I brought you into this world. I can take you out. But God doesn't do that. Remember, you're a creator. He created you, and then he's taken us and he's put us. Where did he put man? He put man in the garden, the best of places he could possibly be. And then man said, you know what? The grass is greener. And God said, no, it's not greener. It's full of thorns. But go look. And that's what we've been doing, is looking. Yeah. He's got poison ivy over there. Yeah. And that's what we've been doing. When in reality, God is saying, if you'd like, you can choose the garden again. And in the garden, it's there for you. Just enjoy it. Enjoy what I've given you. And stewarding, of course, looks so different. This isn't a call to being lackadaisical and all the other bits and pieces, just sort of like, laissez-faire. This isn't a call to, just, I don't know, living lazy by any stretch. There's a reason why the word toil is always reiterated every single time that the teacher says, it's good for humanity to eat and to drink and enjoy themselves. For this is what they get for their toil. This is the reward for their toil. Like, it's always connected. The toil is always there. We're still going to strive. We're still going to go and we're going to learn new things and we're going to create new stuff. And you know what? We're going to mess up along the way when we do these things. Well, we're going to do our best. I was watching this thing today about this thing Egypt is doing again to try and deal with their water problem. This is the country that for thousands of years was the world's breadbasket. I remember saying sometime within the last month here that Rome conquered Egypt strictly for their grain. Well, now Egypt's one of the biggest importers of grain in the world. They import in around 12 to 13 million tons of wheat a year. It used to mostly be from Ukraine and Russia. That's not going very well. It's all filled with drone parts now. They can't farm there, and they can't farm in Egypt, and so so they have the Nile River, right? The Nile River has been there forever, and it flooded, and that's what used to irrigate everything. Well, a bunch of years ago, Ethiopia built this amazing dam. It's huge. It's gargantuan. It's a work of art. It's a masterpiece of engineering, and it creates most of the country's electricity. They've done an amazing thing. They really messed it up downstream, though, because now all of that wonderful sediment that used to flood and irrigate all of the plains of Egypt doesn't exist anymore. The silt is gone. The fertilizer is gone. We're going to keep messing up as we try and do new things as a people. And we're going to do our best. I think pre-sin, pre-fall, this would not have happened. Post-fall, our work and our toil, because so much of it is now self-centered and self-focused, it damages other people. And you have to remember that other people are God's creation. So we're damaging the earth, and we're damaging culture, and we're damaging other people. when we're self-centered and we're self-focused and we're not stewarding. But a Christian is called to steward God's creation. That means everything. But also to enjoy it. That means this is ours. Enjoy it. I love, this is such an intense statement. Banish anxiety from your mind. I love that. And put away pain from your body. Oh, if only it was that easy. Right? Exactly. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Because how many of you can banish pain from your body or anxiety from your mind, right? If you've got a trick, let's go. Anzo's been doing this thing recently. I do suffer from pretty frequent headaches. And he comes and he's found the pressure point. So he massages that. And the first time he grabbed it, I was like, oh man, that hurts so bad. He says, I know, but you won't feel your headache anymore. Oh, I push and prod all of them, and they work for some time. They're good. But banish anxiety from your mind and put away pain from your body, for youth and the dawn of life are vanity. I love that piece there too. Youth and the dawn of life is meaningless in and of itself. But steward it. Rejoice. So it's through that lens, the lens of stewardship, the lens of God has given us these things, we're to steward them correctly, not overuse, not underuse, to enjoy and to work and to take purpose in that. And that be okay. And that be good enough, whatever that enough happens to be. I had a conversation with Stephen Allard when we were at the Leadership Summit. No, Build. And he was telling me about some of the teaching he does on stewardship at his church. And he said the most important thing for us, and of course he's talking about a North American context, to grasp in stewardship is to decide, like almost write down on paper, to decide what is enough. And then stick to it. And he says, like, what is enough shoes? What is enough shirts? What is enough cars? What is enough and everything? And can you decide that? And if you do that, can you stick to it? You know, if that's stewardship, that's difficult because in our society, acquisition is so easy. You don't really actually even have to be rich to acquire. I mean, our secondhand stores and Facebook Marketplace around here is pretty good. It's really easy to acquire, and people give stuff away. We can multiply unto ourselves so many things, all of which, of course, needs our care and attention. And so we can get wrapped up with muchness, with ma'od, and we forget to love God with all of our muchness. Well, how do you love God with your muchness? It's to say, God, this is enough. That's enough. This is what I need, and that's enough. And we can put that into so many different areas of life. Because balance is so important. What's enough sleep? What's enough exercise? What's enough food? What's enough time working? What is enough time not working? Right? What is enough? Yes. Yeah. And of course, I love the word nefesh with this whole thing because he's talking about breath. And breath, it comes through the nefesh. Nefesh is the Hebrew word for throat. That's where it happens. It's all here. And it's going to return to him. I love that because it's no matter what, it's going to return to him. It doesn't matter what you do, what you change, how much you own, how good you are, it's coming back to the Creator. All of it. All of it. And when it goes back and he looks, will he see a heart of stewardship inside of you? Or will he not? I want him to see a heart of stewardship. It's not going to be perfect stewardship. It's not going to be perfect. There will be unintended consequences. I am going to mess up. I will make mistakes, and I will break things when I mean to fix them. But where is my heart? What is my intention? What am I trying to do? And am I doing that from a place of enjoyment, or am I doing it from a different place? It's a joy. It is a joy to have been blessed with the ability to pick up something from God's creation and put my own will on it. Isn't that powerful? I picked up these little tiny baby birds that were on the street because they fell out of the nest. In that moment, I had full power over that bird. I could do anything. It could become a pet. It could become a meal. I mean, a very tiny meal. Eventually, it could be a meal. It could be anything. I could have destroyed it just because I don't want any more of these birds around. I think I made the right choice. I valued that life, and the boys and I, we took them in, put them into a bush and put some water in there to hopefully help them live. I don't know if that is the right way to make sure those birds are going to live or not. I don't know. That's my intention, though. My intention was to steward that in that moment. I felt I was there. It's really hot out. These birds don't stand a chance out here on the concrete. And I am going to remember that moment with joy. It was a precious moment. It was a beautiful time. But not only that, I also got to see the fruits of my toil because I've been teaching my sons how to care for things, how to love and value nature and what God has created. And they were concerned about it. And they went to the coffee shop and asked for a cup of water and a lid and brought it back for us to do that. I enjoyed that. And that is also my toil. Yeah. 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 Exactly. Some care. Maybe you gave him some stability for a moment so he could regain himself. We have so many stories, I think, about interacting with nature this way. Mhm. And that's natural because God put us in the garden and said, take care of it. And man, we feel great when that's what we're doing. We really do. And you ever notice that? Like how when Kyle and I were talking about this when we were out paddleboarding yesterday, and there were seals out there, or sea lions. I really don't know. They didn't put their heads up too far. Like I didn't get close enough to see. Anyway, those things are big. Even a seal here, a harbor seal's like this big, and a sea lion twice the length of that. They can get pretty big, the males and stuff. And I sort of said to him, realistically, we don't stand a chance against one of these things if they want to be aggressive. Like they can just tip us over. They could bite us. They might be able to like hold us under the water. They can swim so much better. We're in their habitat. I don't really think we stand a chance. But those things cower at us. They don't like getting too close. You paddle, I mean, if you paddle carefully, they'll let you get a little bit close, but they're not big fans of us. They don't think they're stronger than us. They don't think they're more powerful than us. They obey us. That's part of the created order. Well, there's a reason why you see so many videos of people scaring off bears. Like, it takes a lot to get an animal to be at its last resort and then attack you. And I would put it to you that that's probably because you weren't a very good steward of it, but not always, obviously. There are sometimes animals that are very aggressive for other reasons, but by and large, anyway, this is going on for a long time. I love this book, and I really feel that Ecclesiastes is the way to the life that we've always wanted. If we would take it, if we would accept the really simple answer, but the slightly more difficult execution, because stewardship takes self-control. Self-control is hard.